You are listening to the Break Time Tech Talks podcast, a bite-sized tech podcast for busy developers, where we'll briefly cover technical topics, news snippets, and more in short time blocks. I'm your host, Jennifer Reif, an avid developer and problem solver with special interest in data, learning, and all things technology. I am very glad to be back after a couple weeks of hiatus. It seems that summer is heating up, and it's looking like a bit of a wild ride for the next few weeks. I've been hands-on keyboard working on the Java book for a major deadline, as well as jumping in on a new Graph Hackathon event series. I'll share what I've been working on, as well as some tidbits on what's coming next. Plus, an episode wouldn't be complete without some bit of content. So I'll share one I've ruminated on and finally revisited. Let me catch you up. First off, I worked on the AI First Java book that I've been talking about now for several weeks. The first 6 chapters, is now officially submitted. This was a Herculean effort over the last week and last weekend to get it all put together and ready to get shipped off. I did some remaining cleanup and edits the first couple of days this week and then finally got it submitted. I did have some recent challenges. Most of that has been around just finding good examples that naturally built up the concepts throughout each section and chapter, then getting the AI to cooperate on those concepts and build the type of code examples that I really wanted it to, and then creating a thoughtful storyline that progresses naturally and interestingly and so on. I really wanted concepts that sensibly built up all throughout the sections and chapters so that you can follow the progression and not get lost or confused in how they get assembled. I feel like that's the piece that's often missing when you learn something new. It's not just the concepts themselves, but really progressing naturally and building one on top of the other and understanding how and why each of those fit together, those building blocks, and then how you put those building blocks together to build a full-on solution, and the types of problems you are trying to solve. That's also a key piece that I find is missing in a lot of the learning, is relating it back to real business problems or things that you might come across in the real world. How do I go about solving those problems and piecing through those solutions? That's really what I wanted to cover and bring about in this book. The other piece I wanted to follow in this book was to have an intriguing storyline. Tech books can sometimes be a bit dry. They focus really on the teaching goals and the technical skills that you're building along the way, which are great aspirations. There's nothing wrong with that. However, I really wanted something that focused on solving problems and could somewhat follow a technical professional's journey throughout their career, complete with failure stories, debugging practices, and some design decisions along the way. So real things that I've come across and interacted with that I'm hoping maybe by teaching the next set of learners those things, that their journeys will be a little bit easier or at least a little bit more transparent of things that might come up. I hope all of this comes through in the book, but I can't wait to share more details on this soon. Also, last week I had a customer hackathon event. There's a relatively new set of events that Neo4j has recently started running at customer sites, where we have some set of training by technical professionals, usually internal Neo4j folks, our field teams, and some from the developer relations team, which is us. And then we work with the hackathon teams there at the customer site to help them build successful solutions with graphs. Last week was actually the first of these that I've been able to participate in, and I really enjoyed it. Now, it was very intense. It was more intense than what I anticipated. Led some of the training on the first day, along with some other of my colleagues, to give different tidbits in different topic areas that they were interested in. And then the next 1.5 days were very long coding hours, very intense side-by-side sessions of how to go about solving the problems they were looking to solve. Then the last half of the third day was submitting all the hackathon deliverables, putting together presentations and documentation and providing links to code, doing the actual team presentation, and then some wrap up, things like judging and awards and just closing remarks and so on. What I really loved about this was seeing what real enterprise developers are doing, the things they're struggling with and dealing with in their projects and their tech stacks, and some of the other things that go along with working inside of a real enterprise. The things that I didn't find so interesting, or that I found surprisingly frustrating, I guess, is that Neo4j is coming in to provide the expertise, but we're not actually doing the coding, right? That kind of defeats the purpose of a hackathon. You want to help the inside teams be successful with the technology. Therefore, you're there to provide the expertise and maybe research things or help them through things, but you're not really hands-on keyboard for most of it. This was something that I struggled with just a bit. It's hard for a hands-on problem-solving developer like myself. So hard to sit on the sidelines, answer the questions, explain the code, but not actually get to write any of it or to participate and help build the final solution. Again, I was just providing that side expertise and just answer questions where needed, but I wasn't actually building anything, which is unusual for me, right? I'm used to going out, I have this problem, I want to solve it. I'm going to actually build a solution, put something together, demo it, showcase it, etc. I couldn't do that in this case. And it was just, I guess, surprisingly frustrating for me to sit on the sidelines and help from a side view. Now, because of the book deadline and the customer hackathon last week, I ended up with tons of catch up this week. There were lots of missed meetings, several little small tasks, some conference abstract submissions that I really needed to get in before the CFP deadlines closed, and some prep for upcoming content and presentations that are coming up quickly. I do have another customer hackathon event coming next week, so I'm really looking forward to gathering more information and more learning at another event, and we'll see how this one goes. I will keep you posted on some of the tidbits there. I do also have an upcoming Graph Rag fundamentals training that is going to be on the O'Reilly learning platform. I had mentioned I had one scheduled for the very end of April that had to get canceled last minute due to some things going on, and I was able to get that rescheduled. It is officially rescheduled. I will post links to that and hopefully start that ball spinning a little bit to ramp up and keep you informed about what's going on with that. Then I also have some new highlights at Neo4j that I'm hoping to explore in the next few days and weeks. The first one is a new Neo4j CLI. I'll provide the link to that in the show notes. This is for interacting with Neo4j database instances from the command line. You can also use this with coding agents, which is kind of nice, things like Claude or whatever coding agent or coding tool you might be using. And you can download agent skills to allow your coding tools to handle different typical functions that you would want to execute with your database. So for instance, run these types of queries, I want to do this type of flow, or I want to interact with my database or spin up a new database in this way with this config. There's lots of already pre-built skills, and of course you can always add your own and just add those to the Neo4j CLI, and then you can interact with that or through that and with those tools from your coding agent of choice. Also, another project that is going on is called Agent Instruction Protocol, and this was just opened up to be public on the repo, so I will add this also in the show notes. This is really intriguing to me as well. This is part of a research paper that my colleague put together to take skills that's documented as a spec and turn it into a YAML file that is structured as a JSON graph schema. It basically turns the skill that's been documented into an execution graph, modeling it as a workflow of steps and the relationships that outline the process. This sounds really intriguing, but I felt it was a little bit complicated to grasp when I heard it from the first time. I had to go back through and read some things over and over again before I really kind of even feel like I grasp it now, but I feel like I'll better comprehend it once I play with it. So I'm really looking forward to exploring that. Really, what I feel that this does is you can take a skill of a process that is repetitive. The example that was given to me was documenting how you go about classifying an exoplanet in the night sky. When you take a telescope and you point it at something, and can I classify that this is an exoplanet or not? The different processes that you go through in order to do that. So that is a skills document. It's outlined as kind of a spec doc as a skill. Then you take that, and with this GitHub repository, you can turn it into a process graph. In order to classify an exoplanet, then these are the steps you need to take. You need to find the object and all the little steps that go involved in that. That gets outlined as a graph. So now you can understand the process flow. Not only is it outlined in a spec document, now it's been turned into a process flow where you have nodes for the different steps and the relationships that connect those steps together. This helps you understand and document processes really well. So again, I don't feel like I'm fully grasping it until I play with it and see where it might be really useful, but I found this really interesting and something I definitely want to look at. Now, the episode wouldn't be complete without having a piece of content that I cover. And this week's is actually one that I listened to a while ago, but I wanted to go back and review it and cover it again and then pass it along after that. It's called Building Agents in Java with Embabel, Getting Started. And this is a video by Dan Vega. Dan Vega is from Broadcom. He walks through creating a new project with Embabel. Embabel is a Java framework for implementing AI applications in an enterprise. Now, Embabel goes about AI just a bit differently in that it's a bit closer to an AI integrated workflow, something like automation plus AI. So it's less black box, a bit more documented workflow step by step. It uses real algorithms in order to do that. And its structure, Dan walks through kind of a diagram of how it works and its focuses. There are three kind of main focuses of Embabel. The first is actions, which get built up into plans, which then help achieve goals. Dan walks through all of this, all about the project, the links, the resources, etc., and then actually starts building something from scratch. The project is designed to write a blog post, then review a blog post, and output that blog post to a markdown file. Dan live codes everything, explains how it works along the way. What I really loved about this is the interaction between some explanation and background of things that are going on, showing source code of where the annotations are coming from, how things are working together, the different classes, the different annotations, the different methods that are being called, and also the live coding, watching it actually come together. Then some links out to resources and sample information. I really liked this step-by-step walkthrough. Another thing that was pointed out is that Embabel focuses on decomposition of steps into basically kind of like configurations, which then allow you to reuse those components and that configuration anywhere you want to. An example of this is you can define personas. For instance, in this particular project in the video, there are personas defined for writer, and there's another persona defined for reviewer. And this acts like a reusable prompt configuration, basically. You define the persona, and then when you call that particular method to write the blog post, then you say, hey, I want this particular call to come from the writer persona, so from a writer's perspective. Where the reviewer persona, then when you call the review blog post draft, now I want you to have the frame of mind that you're a blog post reviewer, and this is the persona. It basically lets you remove the hard-coded persona values of you're a helpful assistant, you're a technical writer, you're a whatever you want to set the stage for the AI to be. You can remove that, create a persona, and then use that as configuration in any call you want to, which means that you could potentially say, I want to use this persona for this call, this persona for this call, and maybe you want to combine those personas and use them almost in like a panel to discuss something or interact in a certain way. This is really interesting, I thought, something that was a bit different, and just another way that Embabel is going about decomposing these very complicated steps that we kind of just all toss into a prompt and stuff it all in there and hard code a lot of it, where now if we can pull some of those pieces out, it allows us to reuse those very small components. Then after Dan wraps up, he leaves us with some possibilities for expansion, with hopefully some more content that will be coming soon. I really loved this walkthrough, and I'm hoping to get a chance to play with Embabel and spin up my own starter project here sometime soon. This week, I worked on writing a book for learning Java in the age of AI and interacting with real enterprises trying to adopt graphs. The last couple of weeks have definitely been very, very busy and a blur of hands-on learning. I also got to revisit a live coding adventure with Dan Vega, showing off Embabel and how to get a project started for building enterprise AI with Java. We'll see where the tech current takes us next. Thanks for listening, and happy coding.